Welcome to Nutreco's Women in Science podcast series. The 11th of February is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. It's a moment for us to focus on the huge steps women have made in carving out successful careers in science, but also acknowledging that there are still gender inequalities in the field. Did you know, for example, that only 1/3 of research positions worldwide are filled by women? At Nutreco, we're committed to building diverse and inclusive teams, and this podcast series aims to inspire and celebrate by shining a spotlight on women working in science-related fields at Nutreco. We'll highlight their career paths, their passions, their motivations, their scientific highlights, and their ultimate goals. So let's get started. I'm your host for this first session. My name is Robyn, and I recently joined Nutreco from SHV. I'm responsible globally for recruitment and for diversity and inclusion. And our very first guest in our very first podcast is Lucia, who's joining us from the Netherlands, where she works at the head office Nutreco. And you were recently promoted. Congratulations. Tell us about your new role.
Thank you, Robyn. Thanks. Yeah, I'm super happy with this. New year, new role. I joined Nutreco Exploration, which is a brand new team as well. It's brand new team members, so it's all very fresh, starting small and very exciting because we can really start to build it up. Nutreco Exploration is there to develop new feed additives based on new technologies that we do not currently have in-house, so that we don't currently cover in our portfolio of products and solutions. So it's quite exciting to work on something that's totally new to us.
And really pioneering. But how far away is it from what you were doing before? Because you were an investment associate before.
Great question. I think there's a lot of similarities between my previous role and this one. I was indeed with New Frontiers, the corporate venturing team of Nutreco. With that, we were also looking into technologies and innovations, but for the whole range or for the whole scope of Nutreco, ranging from digital solutions to nutritional solutions to health solutions. In this role specifically, we're focusing on nutritional health feed additives, so much more focused on to new additive development, so real ingredients. That's the difference there. In terms of role, my scope will also be a bit different. So in New Frontiers, we were very much geared to make an investment happen in a company, so in a startup or scale-up with technologies that we do not have in-house. That investment always being strategic, so we would always go for a strategic partnership with that company. And now in Nutreco Exploration, we're not just looking for investing in the company, we are really much looking for developing new additives ourselves, and we can use external technologies for that. We can work with external partners for that, but we won't be investing in those companies as such. We will be investing in the development of these new feed additives in our own teams.
And so then we own the recipes, the patents.
Exactly. We will develop our own proprietary solutions. So we'll be the first ones in the market with that new solution. We'll be using them. We'll be selling them to our own customers, as well as to others who can use these solutions. We'll become the owners of those.
New year, new start, new role. But how did you get there? Because you have a background in biotechnology. How did that happen?
Exactly. I studied biotechnology in Wageningen. I've always had a big interest in agriculture, in animals, in the food industry. So when I was choosing for studies, I wasn't quite sure what to choose, but at least I knew that an agricultural university would be a very good fit. I even doubted to study animal sciences like a lot of our colleagues did. So, well, in the end, it all came nicely together. Because in Nutreco, this is very much in the industry of my interest. And not only in the industry of interest, but also I think Nutreco is pretty unique in its sort. It's so innovative. There are so many, scientists in the company. There are so many initiatives around innovation and investing in technologies. That's very unique. Investing in the development of new technologies, but applying them as such.
How did you really decide to go into biotechnology, though?
For me, biotechnology is the intersection of what I find most interesting, biology and chemistry. Biotechnology is relevant to us in our daily lives, really, from all different angles. You'll see biotechnology back in food products, in the chemicals or the laundry detergents we're using, in fuels, biofuels, plastics, materials, of course, a lot in pharmaceuticals, in biologicals. So biotech is everywhere, and the options to develop new products and solutions with it are endless. And that's really sparked my interest. What else can we do? What new technologies can we still incorporate? What more solutions are out there to make the world a bit better?
And then you had quite an interesting career step, right? Because you started working, you didn't start your career at Nutreco.
Exactly. I started my career starting with a small own company in biotech, working on the expression of proteins and producing those proteins for various industries. This was really a spin-off from my work in the university with the university professor I worked with. So that was quite an exciting journey. For me, this was also the very first step into entrepreneurship, to explore what else is out there other than the scientific training I enjoyed so much. So during my studies, I already had some courses on innovation and entrepreneurship, and I decided to just, after studies, take 1 year to further explore that and see what it all means, starting a startup, starting a company. That was a real exciting journey. It was super challenging, probably the most challenging thing I've done. And after a year, I also decided that, okay, this was a bit too challenging. Let's call it an end, and let's move ahead.
What would you say are some of your key successes or some of your key learnings?
I think one of my key learnings, or what has always helped me, is really working with inspiring people. People that can support you when it's getting difficult, people that are a source of inspiration, people that you really want to learn from. So they don't have to be these famous persons that everyone likes and everyone is inspired with, but it can be really persons that you'll meet during your job that you think, this is an interesting person, and this person really wants to listen to me, wants to help me, wants to coach me. I think that's what really helped me during my career. I think what I liked a lot about my career path so far is that I always chose it based on my interests. So I chose a non-typical minor for my studies, and the same for internship, the same for choosing an additional master thesis, just because I found it interesting. And I think this made me successful in what I did, to do what I liked best. Because if your job or if your studies are what you really like, you're okay, and you're good to set to go the extra mile for it. And even if it's not fun on a daily basis, you know that you still want to pursue and you want to go for it, and you just know that, well, life is no pony camp.
No, and life is very long if you don't enjoy your job.
Right.
And I mean, we're working in a pretty male-dominated industry. How did you experience that?
I've never experienced that as a barrier. Again, I've always tried to surround myself with those persons that I liked working with, those persons that I think I can learn something from, that can be inspiring. So this hasn't been a big barrier, but I have been, observing the fact that indeed there is a lot of male around in our industry in many different roles. And sometimes I do feel a bit aware about that.
And how do you, when you say, okay, I feel a bit aware about it, what does that mean, right? Do you do something differently about it? Do you have advice for people?
This is a real good question, Robyn. I think it's really important to stay close to yourself, to stay close to who you are. Regardless of your gender, you'll have your own strengths and you'll have your own development points. And it's okay to acknowledge those. You should know what your strengths are, and you should know how you would like to develop them further. You don't need to score 10 out of 10 on every different scale. So even if there's things that you think others are better at, that's okay, right? You can just improve on your own. You can focus on your strengths, and I think that's regardless of your gender. My personal experience is that sometimes I feel that I am, and other women as well, when I talk to friends, are maybe sometimes a bit less confident about themselves. They feel a bit more insecure than you would expect that male would feel. I don't know whether that's actually true, but sometimes it feels a bit like that. And I think if we are all aware of that, of ourselves, we also know that we should feel a bit more confident about ourselves and know that we are valuable and know how to use our own strengths. Is this something you recognize from your experience as talent manager or personally?
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because you see it change at different life stages of female colleagues. So you often see when women enter the workforce, you haven't experienced that things can be different for different genders. So there's no concern there. It's just, hey, let's get on with work. But then you also see over time, particularly then also as women can become more senior, that people start to experience for themselves some of the differences, and that can affect then, it can also affect their confidence. And I think it happens in a lot of different functions, but of course we know that it definitely does happen in science. And for instance, female researchers often receive smaller grants for research than their male counterparts. I have another question for you then. What advice would you give to other young females starting their careers in science?
So I think here I should come back to one of the points I addressed earlier. I think definitely in the beginning of your career, it's important to surround yourself with people that are taking the time and are willing to invest in you, so to help you, to coach you. And that can be your manager, your boss, but it can also be someone else, even someone outside of your company. Just make sure that you have someone with whom you can exchange ideas, who can coach you, you can ask questions, to keep on developing on yourself and to test your ideas and experiences with others, to really reflect. I think that's something very important. As scientists, we are very much trained to work on facts, do the research right, focus on the details, make sure we understand everything, and we only feel like we're successful when we do know everything, and when the fundamental parts about our science are right and the data is correct. But I think there's more about science than just facts and data. It's also about how to interpret this data, how to communicate what you found, how to present yourself to a team, how to come across. So there's a lot more personal development steps that you can make that you haven't learned during your studies, at least I haven't, and that you'll be working on during your working life.
I think that's a fantastic advice because firstly, you will never know everything, and you will never have managed to research completely everything, but it's also really important about how you bring your ideas to the rest of the world.
Exactly. And sometimes, and especially early in your career, you might feel like, okay, yeah, I'm a scientist, but I don't know everything. So am I really a scientist? But it's also relative. Look at the people around you. Look at the team you're working on. Probably, yes, you are the scientist. And yes, you are the expert. Even though you don't know all the details, you're still the expert. And just take that role.
Yeah, great advice. Lucia, I would like to thank you for joining us and for sharing your stories. And just one last question. What are you most looking forward to about your new role?
Getting that first product to market. Really make it happen.
How long will that take?
I hope not too long. I hope that for first generation of products, we can be there in 1 year, I hope.
Very exciting.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for this nice conversation. And thanks for this initiative.
And for our listeners, we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. We have 4 more episodes in this series. Most of them are in English, but there will also be one Spanish episode. So make sure you tune in more to hear about the stories of other scientists from Nutreco.